Is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buffalo Blitz right here on the Built in Buffalo Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter network. And as always, the Built in Buffalo Podcast Network, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Odyssey, or wherever you get your podcast. As you guys maybe can tell, probably can't tell, now you will know. We are doing a pre-recorded episode, so we were recording this Monday night. You guys are currently watching or listening to this at Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. So we will not be responding to you guys in the comment section, but Lance and I will, as always, go back and probably look at some of the comments. So feel free to go drop a comment, drop your thoughts. We are talking about some defensive free agents. There's a lot of them, not as way more than the offensive side of the ball like we did last week. We're going to be breaking down some of the potential defensive free agents on the Buffalo Bills. But before we do that, Lance, how are we doing, my man?
Doing well, doing well. And as you guys know, the Buffalo Blitz is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up using promo code BLITZ and get your first deposit matched up to $100. Uh, they did a nice $1 million airdrop over the Super Bowl day there. It was yesterday on Sunday. And yeah, so guys, check out Underdog Fantasy. Really cool stuff they got going on. Kind of a little bit of a different twist on fantasy sports. So
Yeah, make sure you guys check that out. And make sure you guys follow everything Built in Buffalo. And make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe wherever you guys are listening or watching. Okay, Lance, we have, as I start coughing, we have a lot to talk about because there's a lot of free agents that are on the defensive side of the ball. Like if you guys missed our show last week, we kind of ran through the offensive side of the ball, talked about each guy, gave our thoughts on each guy, and then what we would do, either bring them back or not bring them back. Okay,
bring them out, bring them out.
let's get started. We're going to start on the defensive line, the edge rushers, the pass rushers. Leonard Floyd was brought to Buffalo on a one-year deal, performed adequately, tailed off kind of towards the end of the year. Lance, what are your thoughts on Leonard Floyd heading into the offseason?
Yeah, I really liked Leonard Floyd. The way he came out, kind of played very high level starting the year, and then, like you mentioned, maybe wasn't as noticeable as the year progressed, and obviously body fatigues and stuff like that. Age probably comes into account there. I've got kind of three categories, and then Micah Hyde for some of these guys we're going to talk about, and and Leonard Floyd's going to go into wait until after the draft and then check in with him kind of category. Let's see what else we get throughout the off season, and then in the summer, if it's another, hey, do you want to come back? And the business end of it makes sense, then I'm going to have no qualms with bringing back Leonard Floyd on that sort of deal. But let him hit free agency and see if someone else is willing to pay his asking price first, and go from there, kind of the Jordan Poyer approach from last year type of thing. Or even with him, I think he was later in the summer coming in. So similar approach to last year with Leonard Floyd.
I tend to agree with you on that. Like, I think I liked his production, but like I said in his intro, he kind of tailed off towards the end of the year and didn't produce as well, especially in the playoffs where we kind of need guys obviously to produce. Those are the biggest games of the year, and we need to win those games. So he didn't produce as well as I would have liked. He might price himself out of Buffalo, like you said. So if he does get that like 2 to 3 year deal with too much money, I could 100% see him not be back in Buffalo. But I'm with you. If the Bills can get him on the contract that they like, and that I think both both sides of the Leonard Floyd and the team can agree on, I would like to see him back in Buffalo. I think he was productive enough to warrant another contract in Buffalo. I just don't know what his open market is, and he might, based on the Bills cap situation, he might price himself out of the market. But I am not opposed to having Leonard Floyd back in Buffalo.
Yeah, well said. I think just pulling up here to see if they do have a
Spot
market
check
value
now.
on them right now. Yeah.
Spot track is so annoying. Like, breaks down my computer every time I Google it. Like, it just starts to make it sound like my computer's gonna explode or take off to Mars when I load up Spot Track, especially when I'm doing StreamYard.
Yeah, 8.1 million on a 2-year deal.
That's actually not bad.
Not bad, but I mean, I guess at 32 years old, probably would like to see that salary be spent. I mean, Bills are just they're up against it this year. That they're not going to have the same luxuries as they've had, and as much as they kick the can down the road this year, we'll see how that plays out.
Mhm.
Seems unlikely that they'd be able to fit that
That's still not a
in.
terrible
It's not
contract.
terrible, but I just would like. I mean, we have other places where we could use an $8 million player.
Okay. Other places is Shaq Lawson, a guy that has had multiple stints in Buffalo. Obviously, was originally drafted by the Bills, then went elsewhere, then came back in Buffalo, and has been a productive, somewhat solid, really good in the run defense. It doesn't have any really sack numbers to show for it. What's your outlook on Shaq Lawson heading into this offseason, Lance?
Yeah, Shaq Lawson for me is in the same category as Floyd, where I'm gonna let him go and test a free agent market, and then check back with him after the draft if we still have a need at the defensive end position and are looking to fill
Mhm.
the role he can provide. Then see where he's at with a number. But if he gets a contract that he's happy with and wants to go elsewhere when free agency begins, then I'm not going to be upset that the Bills might lose him.
Yeah, he's a team player, right? Like he loves the Bills. You can tell he came back his second stint. He's great. I think he's great. I think he's a great locker room guy. I think he's good for the organization. This seems like a guy that, like, if they were to bring him back, they would either bring him back really, really, really early in the offseason where it's such a cheap deal, it doesn't really matter, or so late in the offseason just to add another roster spot or another body
Mhm.
to that D line room. They're not going to break the bank for him. So, like, if he goes and gets maybe a couple more mil, the Bills are not going to chase that. I don't think. Like, I think the Bills are going to wait and see. And if there's nothing out there for him, then I think they have to kind of move on. I mean, I'm saying if there's nothing out there for him, then he'll come back. But I'm not like Lance. I like Shaq Lawson, but like he doesn't
Yeah, you're
offer.
never going to question the guy's effort, right? He's always there. His deal was for 1.3, so if he's,
Yeah, like
you
he's
know,
still
he's going to be
29.
turning 30 years old.
Yeah, but he had one
I'm
sack.
not opposed to bringing him back. He's obviously, like I said, he's a high energy veteran player, has a ton of upside at the right price. But again, yeah, it's not, if he is able to go get something with a larger role from another team, then that's where I'm talking more business side of things when I say, hey, you got to kind of wait until after the draft, see where you come out on your defensive end room after initial free
Yeah,
agency and the draft, and then see where that fits for your
like
team. And I think he could be, like you mentioned, a later addition in the summer.
Lance, if you go get an edge rusher in the 4th round, right? He's gone. I think like he potentially could be gone. Like you can
Like your
replace
guy
that production.
Corliss.
Yeah. Um, he had one sack this past year, year before 3.5 sacks. I like Shaq Lawson, but I agree. Like I think he'll probably be a late addition to the team. Like you and I wake up one Wednesday morning and here's Shaq Lawson, and you can't really complain because it's a 1-year, $1 million deal and it does nothing, and he's your 5th edge rusher after the edge room is already set. And you're like, oh great, Shaq Lawson, cool. If we need to get an injury, he's fine. They're not going to break the bank for Shaq Lawson, and they're gonna wait for him to come to them more than they're not going to go to him.
Hmm.
But I'm never opposed to Shaq Lawson being back in Buffalo. Okay, the final edge rusher we have to talk about, and probably you can say Leonard Floyd, but I would, in my opinion, the biggest name in this edge rusher group that is a potential free agent for the Bills, and that is AJ Epinesa. Lance, what are your thoughts on him heading into free agency? His first time hitting free agency.
Yeah, I have him in my re-sign before another team does category. So one of the initial targets when free agency opens for the Bills to go out and get a deal done is calculated market value at 5.6 million. I think you can get a 2 or 3, maybe a 3-year deal with an out done with him, and makes too much sense not to. You've developed this guy this long and starting to really come on this year. Played really well. Part of that rotation for you, I think he's one of the guys you got to target to bring back.
Yeah, I think AJ Epinesa. If I had to choose one of these three guys in the edge rushing room, he's the guy to come back, right? Like we've criticized him. I think he was a big piece heading into this offseason, into the season when you and I talked about him over the summer when we broke down the position groups, right? Like this has to be a big year for AJ Epinesa. Lance, I don't know if it was you and I, but we talked about it because it was spread throughout social media. AJ Epinesa was almost traded. Like he was on that kind of trade block per se. Obviously, it ended up being Boogie Basham who was moved on from the Bills. But look, AJ Epinesa has been a productive player for the Bills. He had 6.5 sacks this past year. That is not an easy production to replace. Like you have Gregory Rousseau, but then you have no one else really on the edge rushing room at the moment. You have Von Miller, but obviously we don't know his full status. I think AJ Epinesa has to be back in Buffalo. I would expect him to be back in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been a lot of time and effort spent into molding him, and seems like he kind of clicked. He did, he got hurt, so missed some time there, but just seems like he's kind of got a pretty good handle on things right now. Still only 25 years old, so
If
for me, it's a no-brainer. Seems like to really get this guy back in your building and continue his career here in Buffalo.
This is a stupid question because I think I know the answer, but out of these three edge rushers, he's the guy you bring back if you only could bring back one, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, look, like you said, he's 25 years of age. He turns 26 in the middle of September, so he'll be 26 heading basically into the year. They invested a second round pick in him. They already traded Boogie Basham, another edge rusher. Like I think AJ Epinesa has to be that guy that one, you invested in him, and you don't have a lot of bodies at that position, and it's always good to bring back guys you drafted. Keep that core together. I think he'll be back in Buffalo. I would be shocked if Leonard Floyd's back in Buffalo. Not shocked, but I don't think he'll be back in Buffalo. And Shaq Lawson can be whatever 50-50 back in Buffalo, not back in Buffalo. But I expect AJ Epinesa to be back in Buffalo. He also had 2 interceptions. Kind of forgot about those. So
Yeah.
shout out and a forced fumble. I would like that sack number to be up a little more consistent, but
I think it's his missed time. That's why kind of
and the rotation that he doesn't
wasn't able
get.
to.
He's not working in 70% of the snaps. It's closer to 40, 45, 35, 40 kind of thing for AJ Epinesa. Okay. Moving on, and guys, if you guys are commenting, I know you guys are. Let us know in the comment section, Lance, and I will be reading these comments throughout the show. But yeah, let us know what you guys' thoughts on any of these players that we are talking about tonight. And then obviously we'll end with a draft simulator because why the hell not? Okay. The next position group, we have 5 players we have to talk about. We're going to start with the big boy, the big gun, and that is Daquan Jones. And obviously we are talking about the defensive tackle position. Daquan Jones, we saw what the Bills defense was with him, and then we saw what the Bills defense was without him in the interior of the line. He was great a year ago. Obviously dealt with the pectoral issue for most of the year, got injured in that London game, that damn London game that freaking screwed us. So thank you, London, and thank you, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You can go kick rocks. But Daquan Jones pushing a little bit of the age, but when he was healthy, he was arguably the most productive defensive tackle in the NFL in the run game.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think he's all over social media now, and I just love his presence out there. He's got such a fire under him. His attitude's right, unlike Travis Kelce's attitude, who's well, maybe we can talk about that later. But
thank you for Travis Kelce because it blew up the tweet for me. So thank you, Travis Kelce, because I got like 150,000 views on my tweet because Travis Kelce's a complete tool. But
yeah. Anyway, so Daquan Jones, pro, absolute, can be an anchor on this defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's one of the guys I kind of would like them to go and get a multi-year contract done. Hopefully, 2 seasons of good production left from him. Maybe not, but hopefully at least one. So go out there and give this man a little bit of money. Hopefully, I know we don't have a lot of it here in Buffalo, but As Dan Fates usually says, the salary cap's not real. So I'm going to go with that and see if they can pile together $8 million. You're saying for Floyd, then I think they can get Daquan Jones signed. His market value is 6.8 according to Spot Track. So should be able to get a deal done. Maybe just a 1-year deal, but wouldn't mind seeing a two-year deal to maybe lessen the cap hit in year one, and have an out after the first year. We'll see. I mean how it shapes out, but he's one of the guys I say re-sign before another team.
Yeah, the age is a little bit of a concern. So obviously it's not a multi-year deal. He has to be
No,
back in
2-year
Buffalo.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah, on a 2-year deal, I agree. I think that's the deal. Maybe that second year a little more incentive based off the age, and see if he can still perform in the second year. Maybe a little more guaranteed money in year one, incentive based in year two. Lance, he's one of these guys on this list that like is at the top of the list on the defensive free agents that has to be back in Buffalo, especially with the shape of the defensive tackle room. The only guy right now currently signed, or two guys, I guess, Eli Anku's technically signed, but along with Ed Oliver, he has to be there. We saw how productive Ed Oliver was next to Daquan Jones. We also saw how productive Daquan Jones was. Run stopper, a great teammate, a great locker guy. Will do everything he needs to do to go get that. And he tweeted today or yesterday, I think it was today, so Monday, he wants a ring. So he said he wants to go get himself a ring. So come to Buffalo. Let's go get that ring, man. And then you can do whatever you want because it doesn't matter after that. But yeah, Daquan Jones has to be back in Buffalo. I think he's too productive. We saw Lance, and I don't have to tell everyone this because people know this, how much we missed his presence after he got injured, especially in the run game. They were able to kind of get going a little on the run defense. It worked, but it wasn't as good as it was with Daquan Jones. So we need him back, and I do expect him to be back in Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Another guy, fan favorite, but a guy that has been dealt with a ton of injuries in his career with the Cardinals and then obviously with the Buffalo Bills. That is Mr. Jordan Phillips. Lance, what is your outlook for Jordan Phillips heading into this offseason?
Yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about the player, Jordan Phillips. He's obviously got a great presence with the team. But just from a team standpoint, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to continue to bring him back. He's in my let walk category, and not because of anything in particular that he does wrong or whatnot. It's just a matter of like, let's get younger on the defensive line and let's try to and let's see what happens, with the draft or other free agent potentials that may be able to come in and add more. I'm not sure if that's possible, but we'll see. And for that reason, I just had him as a let walk candidate and see if he can go find a role somewhere else.
He falls for me into the Shaq Lawson kind of category almost. I agree. I think he's a let walk kind of guy, but I also feel like if the Bills want to bring in a fifth defensive tackle for camp, you go get him in June,
Sure.
right? He's that type of guy, but you can't his production isn't good enough to warrant his injury risk and have to rely on him to play, right? Like Lance, there's nothing negative to say about Jordan Phillips, but because he's dealt with so many injuries in his time with the Bills, it's not worth it to risk one of your key defensive tackle spots on him, knowing that he's not really that productive. He's good, but he's not crazy productive, and then he gets injured a lot. Like I don't think you can do that. I think you keep Ed Oliver, you bring back Daquan Jones, and then you go draft a D tackle, and then maybe go find another cheap one or bring back another guy we might be talking about in a minute or two here. I think that's what the D tackle room it looks like. Jordan Phillips is probably on the outside looking in on the D tackle room. I just don't think he's productive enough. I don't think he's productive enough to warrant that injury risk that has plagued him a lot in his career. So I like Jordan Phillips as a guy. I think he's a cool guy. He's excited to be a Buffalo Bill. He's always loved it, but I think his time as a Bill has probably ended. Okay. We're flying through these, Mr. Lance Nelson. Tim Settle, a guy that the Bills brought in 2 years ago. He's been here for 2 years. And former Washington Redskin, but then Commander. So former Washington Commander Tim Settle. He's been productive, but hasn't been crazy productive. Lance, where do you see him heading into this offseason?
Where did he go to college?
Virginia Tech.
Um, I'm I originally listed him in my let walk, but I'm looking at the construction and looking at his age and some more things. I'm kind of okay if they do get something done. His market value was lower than I first thought when I did my
What is it?
list. 3.7 million listed as isn't terrible number for him. He's kind of one of those bowling ball type players, just downhill, and he's quick. That's the good thing about him is he's got great lateral quickness at the line of scrimmage, and he wasn't overly effective in any one area, but he is a nice piece to have. And at his age and having experience in the system, it may be worth for sure getting him if they can get a cap friendly number from him. But if not, then the reason I had let walk is I just assumed he may be commanding more than what the Bills would be willing to pay him, and that's really my reason for some of these guys being on the let. That's same kind of reason with Jordan Phillips and some of these guys. Is just like, I don't know, where can we spend our money to
Yeah.
make the best roster here, and spending it on a defensive tackle that is moderately effective isn't necessarily on my top of my list. I want the weapons to be secured first, kind of, and I really want to make sure that stuff's taken care of, and then we'll see kind of how the draft shakes out and how many times they take a D tackle or a defensive lineman in the draft and go from there.
Yeah, the draft's going to play a major role in a lot of positions, but especially the defensive tackle position and what they do. I'm going to paint you this picture of what I think the potential defensive tackle room could look like heading into the year. And then I think it does include Tim Settle, because I think it would be Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones bringing back Tim Settle, and then a day 2 draft pick, either a second or a third round pick. And then you can go get a cheap free agent to be that 5th guy, or it could be Eli Anku. But you really only play 4 D tackles anyway. So I think that's what the room looks like. Look, Tim Settle hasn't been the most productive player, but he's been healthy. He's been on the field, and he can kind of do multiple things. He can kind of get after the quarterback, but he can also stop the run. He's not overly productive, but I think he slides in to be your 4th D tackle behind the draft pick, in my opinion. The guy keeps coming to my name is T'Vondre Sweat. That would be, I think, a key add, but I do like Tim Settle. I think he has that bowling ball kind of build. He can kind of clog up the lane. And I do think you probably can get him on but a favorable deal, because I don't think he's productive enough on the open market to warrant a lucrative, I'm putting it in quotations, but a little too lucrative deal. But I do think he probably fits into your defensive tackle room.
High energy guy, right? I mean,
yeah.
his press conference when he signed here, let out the woo and all that stuff, and it was cool. I mean, I would have no problem with bringing him back if they make the business side of things work from a football standpoint. I'd like to have him, like I said, the lateral quickness at the line of scrimmage. He wasn't overly effective, 100% of the time, but I think that as a rotational type of guy, it's really feel like the way the Bills defense rotates guys, it's so difficult to really get in a rhythm for some people, and maybe falls in that category. So, he seems like one of those guys that as the game wears on, he would get stronger and stronger given the opportunity. But, obviously just you got to make do with the reps that you get. So, that is the way it is, and I think, like you mentioned, if he's DT4 next year, that's certainly good by me.
Yeah. Okay. Another defensive tackle. We're going to be talking about a guy that they brought in mid-season, a guy that when maybe we probably thought we would never be talking about him in a Buffalo Bills uniform, and that is Linval Joseph. Lance, what is your free agency outlook looking like for Linval?
Yeah, I think going to be 36 next season, so just don't see from the Bills, I don't see adding any more age. We got to get younger here. Obviously, his deal's not world breaking in the salary aspect, but yeah, I just think he's he served his purpose this year with the Bills. Nothing bad to say about him. Just a matter of the philosophy that I have taken with how this roster should be constructed moving forward. And I think it's getting younger, not bringing back a guy that's going to be 36.
He might retire.
Good.
Like he might retire. Well, yeah, he's not going to be back in the Bills uniform next year. You said it perfectly. He served his purpose. They brought him back, or they brought him in the middle of the year. They needed some defensive tackle depth. They had some key injuries there, and I thought he performed adequately for his age and when they brought him in, and for his contract price, which was basically nothing in NFL terms. For you and I terms, that's a lot of money, but for NFL terms, not a lot. Yeah, like he's 36. I agree. You got to get younger. You're already bringing back an aging Daquan Jones. You're probably not going to bring back an even more aging Linval Joseph, who is nowhere near as productive as Daquan Jones at this point of his career. He was nice to have here. There's not much need to be said here. I think Linval Joseph's probably on his way out, and that was probably the deal when they signed him. And he was like, finish the year here, and then we'll see you on your way out. But he was productive. He was somewhat he did his job when he was here, in my opinion. So okay, the final defensive tackle that we're going to talk about, and someone that for a guy that didn't play a lot was talked about a lot, and that is Poona Ford. The Bills signed him this offseason from the Seattle Seahawks. You and I were ecstatic, over the moon about this signing, how productive he could be with this defensive tackle room next to Daquan, next to Ed, etc. Never really got a lot of reps, never really established himself in Buffalo. Lance, what's your free agency outlook look like for Poona Ford?
Yeah, I don't see the Bills bringing him back. I'm not sure if he's inactive for so many games and that you bring in Linval Joseph off the street instead of activating him in one scenario just doesn't seem like that's a guy you're going to bring back. But, if he's sitting there in the summertime and we need a depth guy and that works business wise, then all for it. But it just doesn't seem likely that this was a fit, or that, the scheme was really, that he was really productive in this scheme. And it seems like he might be better to find a role on a different squad.
I was disappointed because I had a lot of, you did too, but
yeah,
I had high expectations for what Poona Ford could be in this uniform. He was raved about from former Seattle Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll in the offseason, basically saying how much we're going to miss him, we didn't properly use him right, and how productive he is going to be for the Buffalo Bills. Well, he was nowhere near productive because he never got his opportunity. Lance, I'm going to take it a step further. I bet you he doesn't even want to sniff Buffalo ever again.
Yeah,
there's no way he wants to come back here. He's clearly definitely was frustrated. He never got his playing time that he probably was promised or expected when he signed with the Bills. And I would be utterly shocked if he was back in the Bills uniform. But I'm disappointed because I thought I saw promise in the signing, and I saw a productive player, and I clamored for him before the draft and then after the draft. And it was tough to see him not really pan out. And Lance, you said it perfectly. When they went to go get an aging Linval Joseph, who's closer to 40 than he is 30, and he played over him, and Poona Ford was still inactive, the writing is probably on the wall for Poona Ford's career in Buffalo. Okay, man, we got a lot of defensive tackles just freaking being free agents. Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah, the whole room's gone. Keep Ed Oliver, and everyone else is a free agent.
Linebacker time. So we know the Bills have Terrell Bernard, star at the linebacker position. Coming back, Matt Milano, star at the linebacker position if he comes back healthy. Rookie Dorian Williams showed some flashes. Do they go bring back this guy as their fourth linebacker? And that is Tyrell Dodson. Lance, what are your thoughts of his free agency heading into this offseason?
I think the Bills have to let him test free agency. He's coming in with a $4.8 million
It's not
market value. Um, I just think with Dorian Williams here, Milano coming back, Terrell Bernard's ascend to stardom, Balin Spector being there, maybe drafting a guy and
in
rounding
the
out
third
that
round.
room. So, let's wait until after the draft and check in and see where he's at. And if he's still available and looking for a role here, then I'm all for it. He was definitely exceeded a lot of people's
Yeah.
expectations this year. Absolutely. Um, again, no problem with the football side of it. Definitely, if he wants to come back, if the business side works, I'm not sure the business side works right out of the gate in free agency. I think maybe they have to wait and see how things shake out post June 1st. But I could be dead wrong on that, and then if I am, so be it. But I just think that it's wait and see what is available in free agency and what comes to fruition in the draft before giving him a contract.
Lance, this is the reason you have 10 draft picks, right? Like you have 10 draft picks because you're in a salary cap issue and a lot of teams are in the same issue. You got to use those draft picks to create depth at the position. Dodson you said it perfectly, exceeded expectations. He came in and filled in for Matt Milano, and he took over for the Matt Milano role, and I thought he played really well. PFF loves him, but you have Terrell Bernard, stud. Matt Milano, stud. And you just drafted Dorian Williams, who I thought came on strong towards the end of the year in the third round. You also have Balin Spector. You don't need to go bring back Dotson. I don't think you can afford to bring back Dotson. But like a lot of these guys, if he's still around past the draft and you have money, then go bring back Dotson. But you're better off, Lance. And this is not a knock on Dodson, but go and drafting a guy in the fourth round to be that fourth linebacker or fifth linebacker. I don't think you can go pay a guy $4 million a year to be either your third or your fourth linebacker. That's just not how the NFL works, unless you have like $80 million in cap space like the Saints. Like that just does not work for how this Bills team is constructed. There's a reason you drafted Terrell Bernard, but he's a stud. Matt Milano, and there's a reason you drafted Dorian Williams in the third round. And you also drafted Balin Spector. I like Dodson. I don't think you can go pay. Let's say he gets that $4.5 million that you were talking about around that number. Lance, I don't think you can pay him to be your third at the best, your third linebacker on this team. A guy, and also a system that doesn't use three linebackers a lot. We can all complain about it and say we need three linebackers if we want to, but we haven't seen Sean McDermott really use that much. Maybe it changes with Bobby Babich, but we'll see. But I don't think they bring back Dotson based off that price point. Okay, final linebacker, a guy that doesn't get a lot of snaps on the defense, but plays a lot of special teams. You pointed him out earlier as well, being a team captain, and that is Tyler Medikevich. What are we thoughts on him heading into the offseason?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be looking for a bigger role at all. I mean, at this point, he's 31, going to be 32 sometime during next season. But I have him on the walk list. I think it's, stringing along these veteran special teams guys. We, again, trying to get younger here. That's the philosophy. Hopefully get a cheaper rookie deal. Maybe not, and they bring him back because of being a great leader that he is on the special teams unit. Again, no problem with the football side of things from him being the special teams guy, and certainly we know that 3 phases of the game matter. Saw San Francisco get bit during the Super Bowl with a punt that went off someone's foot because they didn't communicate properly and things like that on a return. So, for me, I'm just of the thing, these aging special teams only type of players, I'm just ready to move on from. But they do have a role. I get it. And being a captain on that side of the ball in the special teams category is important in its own right, but for me, I have him in the let walk category, and think that you can get similar production with a younger guy.
We're talking about aging guys, right? And we're talking about key special teams guys that only play special teams, and we know how much the Bills value it. The problem is, and I use the same reasoning for Dodson, you have 10 draft picks. You're telling me you can't go get a guy in the 6th round that can just make the roster based on special teams and is $500,000 to $2 million cheaper? Like, I think that's where you kind of have to go, right? Like, Lance, I think you were alluding to that as well. I don't know if you can afford to go pay a guy a couple million just to play special teams. I just don't know if you can do that. Can Balen Spector play that role? I think Balen Spector can play that role. Can a guy in the 6th round that's half the price of Tyler Medikevich play that role? Yeah, and can use that money elsewhere for other needs? Yes. I don't know, like, Lance, what is he? Do you think he's looking for like $3 million a year? Like, if he's looking for like that, I don't know how the Bills can fork that over to a guy that just plays special teams. And this isn't a knock on him. I just don't know if the Bills roster is constructed not properly, is constructed at the moment to go pay a guy $3 million to not play any linebacker.
Yeah, he was making 2.5, so I'm not sure if he'd want to raise at that point, or
like if you got him at $1 million,
take less, then fine.
You got him at $1 million, $1.5 million. Yeah, you probably take that, right? But you have 10 picks for a reason. You want to maximize those picks so that the majority of those players make this active roster. And if they don't, go trade up and use those picks, right? Like, those 10 picks are important because you want to have 6 to 7 to 8 guys make the roster. Does the Bills roster open that up? I don't know. So that's why you have those picks to go up from the 5th to the 4th round to the 4th to the 3rd round, whatever, right? To go make moves, to make those picks go from 10 to 7, but get the 7 guys you really cherish and you really want. Tyler Medikevich probably can, like Dodson, probably can be replaced in the draft, or a guy that's already currently on the roster, like a Balen Spector. We took a shot at Tyler Medikevich, but it's not about his play. It's just about his style. It's
just about the role and the roster construction right now. Mm-hmm.
We don't have $80 million in free cash space to pay a guy $5 million just to play special teams. I know he's not getting 5; he's getting 2.5. But for the point, okay, this is a tough one. Dane Jackson, a guy that has been in Buffalo for a while, obviously was not a high pick whatsoever. He was a former 7th. Was he undrafted or 7th round? 7th round. 7th round. I think 7th round. 7th round. Dane Jackson has been productive when he's been on the field. Lance, what does his outlook look like heading into this offseason?
Yeah, tough, man. I'm torn. I put him on my let walk category just because I think maybe he'll try to look for a role somewhere else. That's my gut feel. I mean, I don't have really anything else to say as to why. I just think that he would maybe be looking for a role somewhere else. But again, Bills are a contending team with obviously, a great kind of young nucleus on the defense, and obviously Josh Allen on the offense. So guys are probably going to want to come back, and maybe the business side works. It's saying market value of 3.1 for him, and I'm not interested in that for his role. I think we have a top 2, maybe 3, and we have to see what's going on with Trey White. No idea how that's going to come about. But you have Trey, Teron Johnson, Rasul Douglas, Benford.
Wait, what? Sorry to cut you out. What is Rasul Douglas's deal? Do we have to pick his? I thought he was a free agent for some reason, but I know he's not.
No, he's not.
What is this? Sorry to cut you off, and now we're just stalled. Now we're just sitting in silence.
No, it's all good. Sorry, I'm trying to look for the. Looks like 6.29 million cap hit. Ooh, that one might have been this year. I'm not sure if it's next year.
Oh, so I think the people are talking about his cap hit potentially.
Yeah, I think it's 9 million next year.
So they might have to restructure that a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. Keep going with your point.
No, that's good. I mean, but that's the kind of thing. It's like you're just gonna have to find. They're gonna have to be creative with finding ways to get everyone, under this cap. And I feel like there's enough young people here with Benford, Elam's still there. They have Saran Neal listed here. Obviously, different. He plays a different position, but for outside corners, you have Elam, Benford, Douglas, and Trey White. Those four are fine by me. And if you have Jamarcus Ingram and Kyron Brown on futures that could be practice squatters or make a leap next year, just give a guy a chance. And Dane's still not aging by any means either. He's still only going to be 28 next year, but I don't know. Like I said, for me, I'm just in that, like, we keep bringing him back on a 1-year deal. How long are you going to keep doing that before he goes and just finds a role where he can maybe get a 2 or 3-year deal? That's my thought on why he might not be back.
I like Dane Jackson, and I think you do too. And I don't think he's back on this team, right? Like, what would you say his value was? 3.5 million on Spot Track?
3.1, yeah.
3.1 million, right? So let's say it's 3. We'll round down. Essentially, he's either the 4th or the 5th cornerback on this team, right? He's either behind Kyer or in front of Kyer, but he's the 4th or the 5th cornerback on this team. Are you really going to bring him back to be that at $3 million? No, right? The quarterback room is set unless you do something with Trey White, which I don't know, and that is something that we can talk about if it happens or when it happens.
Mhm.
But right now you have Trey White, Christian Benford, who's an absolute stud, Rasul Douglas, who was really good, and then that Chiefs game, he was completely injured. You can tell in that game. He was so injured in that game. And then you have Kyer Elam. Dane Jackson does not fit into this team. I like Dane Jackson. He was productive. They got so much value out of that 7th round pick in most years when you get no value out of your 7th round picks. So shout out to Bean, shout out to McDermott, shout out for the staff to developing Dane Jackson. Shout out to Dane Jackson. He's been a good Buffalo Bill. Nothing bad to say about him. He's not great. He's not bad. He's a solid Buffalo Bill. I don't think you bring him back at $3 million a year to be your 5th corner. You have Benford, Elam, Douglas, and White as your 4 corners. Jamarcus Ingram can be your practice squad corner. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you need to do that. And he's not going to play over some of the handful of guys I just mentioned. The only guy would be Kyer potentially, but I think you probably go with Kyer even because he's a little bit more aggressive. And I think you kind of need that on the outside, depending on who you play. I think Dane Jackson probably walks. And good for him. Hopefully he gets like a 2-year, like $8 million deal. Like, I think that'd be kind of cool for Dane Jackson.
Yeah, for sure.
You ready for the toughest one?
This one's easy for me. Honestly, I could talk about this guy all day. Micah Hyde, what is there to say about this guy? He's just been everything the Bills could have asked from him. He just plays so hard, and because the way he plays is so intense and so physical. I talked about this a little bit with Eric Wood on my one-on-one interview, just the tenacity that some of these guys play with, that their bodies just can't hold up to that style of play. And that's where Micah's falling into. I believe he probably will retire this year. If not, and he's going to give it a go, then by all means, welcome back. But I just think that, seeing the way his body reacted in a few of the games this year and just kind of go, trying to grit through it and then ended up going down like a couple plays in a row in one game. And, he's phenomenal. He's done everything, like I said, that the Bills could have asked from him. And just, it's time.
It's tough because he's been here since 2017. He's one of the reasons this team got out of the drought era. He's one of the main reasons he got this team from a poverty franchise, a franchise that didn't win games, to a franchise where we complain when we lose in the divisional round, right? Like, that's where we're at as a franchise. And Micah Hyde is one of those reasons. But for his sake and for everyone's sake, I hope he retires because I don't think his body, like you said, can hold up anymore. How many times, Lance, did he go down this year with a stinger issue? Like that neck stinger kind of issue. Like, I don't want him to play a snap and it be his last snap. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's at that point. And it would be sad to see him in a different uniform than the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, he was a Green Bay Packer, but he's been a Buffalo Bill since 2017. He's been a while. He's been a great player. He's been way above expectations than we could have ever anticipated when we signed him from the Green Bay Packers a handful of years ago. He's been an All-Pro. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's been one of the most elite safeties in the National Football League for 4 to 5 years. He's been awesome, and hats off to him. He's been great to watch. He's been fun to watch. If he does want to play, I don't know if the Bills can bring him back unless he just takes like a team-friendly deal and just wants to come along for kind of another year on the ride, be that third or fourth safety, kind of be that depth guy. Lance, I don't think you can give him a lot of money, and I don't think you can kind of rely on him to be your starting free safety. I think you have to kind of go somewhere else there. So I do think Micah Hyde's probably not in a Buffalo Bills uniform next year. Hey, maybe he joins the coaching staff. I know people like to joke about that. It's a joke, obviously, unless he wants to do it. And if the Bills would have him, but I do think he's probably done as a Buffalo Bill, unless they bring him back on a cheap, friendly deal for everything. I think it'd be cool if he just kind of retires. And that was it for Micah Hyde.
Yeah, and like you said, hats off, all respect to Micah. Just phenomenal career, and we put out a thank you video on Built in Buffalo for it, and certainly the letter that his wife penned to Bills Mafia and things like that, where she all but said they were going to hang it up, graduating from being on the team to a part of Bills Mafia, already kind of foreshadowing what's to come. And that's where I'm basing my that he's probably going to retire this year. So that's why I figured it was an easy conversation, because based upon everything that's out there now, that's the direction. And just again, physical player, and that's kind of taking its toll now.
Yep, I agree. Can't say it any better. And I do agree with his wife coming out with that letter with that little blurb. I would assume that if we're reading into it, which we should because she wrote it, it's his wife. I would assume he would hang up his cleats. But like I said, if he doesn't, I don't expect him to be back in a Bills uniform unless they bring him back on a cheap, friendly deal to be like a third or fourth safety. But I expect him to be retired this offseason, and maybe we'll see him in the stands a couple times with Ryan Fitzpatrick cheering on the Buffalo Bills. Coming down to the end of our defensive free agents, this is Taylor Rapp, a guy that was up and down, but played very well down the stretch, and we missed him dearly, I would think, in that Chiefs playoff game. Lance, Taylor Rapp, I think this is a very interesting conversation that we have to have here.
Yeah, it's so intriguing because he just was gone all of a sudden, right? Random, and it was like a calf or something it ended up being, but it seemed like he just landed on the ball and it knocked the wind out of him the last play there where he intercepted it, but just now he's not available anymore. And it was odd. I have him as a guy where we can maybe try to get him back before another team signs him. So, one of the three, I had three guys on my list here to target right when free agency opens to bring back, and that was Epinesa, Daquan Jones, and Taylor Rapp. Just the experience with the team here seemed like he was finding something towards the end of the year. and I just would like to see, and the only thing is, if Spotrac's on with this market value of $5.5 million, that's tough to swallow. So the business side of things could get in the middle of things. We could say that with every guy here, obviously, but for me, I have as a 26 years old right now. Bring him back. He's gonna play his best football this coming next 3 seasons, I think. So
I really want him back in a Bills uniform because I think he was starting to kind of get his groove under him, and he made a clutch interception against Tua in that to clinch the division on the last game of the year. And then obviously a mysterious kind of calf injury. I thought he was injured because he fell on the ball, kind of got the wind knocked out of him, and he was going to be okay, but he pops up with a calf injury, doesn't play against Pittsburgh, and doesn't play against Kansas City in the divisional round in a game that I thought we really could have used him, a matchup against Kelsey and some other guys. I think my ideal situation would be Poyer, Rapp, and then go draft a guy as your safety room next year. I hope Rapp fits into it. Lance, I kind of thought when they brought him in this past summer, they kind of grooming him into being their starting safety once Micah
Mhm.
Hyde kind of departs after this year, and it kind of fits in perfectly. That that number at 5.5 is not pretty. That's the problem. And like you said, we could say this for a lot of the guys because the business deal getting the business side of football could get in the way 100%. I think the Bills should probably do everything they can to bring back Taylor Rapp. I think a Poyer Rapp either probably if you want to go with safety in the first round, I don't think they do, but Poyer Rapp safety on day 2 kind of pick or safety early day 3. If that's your safety room, I think I'm okay with that. And I think that safety room can win a lot of games.
Yeah, my biggest thing is his salary has been 5.7. His base salary earnings is 5.7 for his 5 seasons in the league. So I'm not sure where he's commanding 5.5 on the market
He
right now.
also might not
Maybe
be.
because of the position, and maybe because of that interception that his last performance maybe warrants that. But I mean, I would say that, and again, I'm not going to claim to be a salary cap expert or try to criticize someone else's work that put that cap value on him, but I just think that the Bills can get him at a lower number than that. They just paid him, 1.7 million or one, not like $1 million base salary, 1.7 cap hit.
Could you get him
So
at 3? You think you can get him at 3? I think that would be like a two and a
three,
half,
3.5, yeah, maybe.
2.5, 3. I think that'd be a good number, right? Like I don't think you can go 5.5 with Taylor Rapp.
I don't think they would need to. I think they can get a deal done,
Mm-hmm.
multi-year deal. Like I said, I would sign him to. I think the next 3 years
Could you
could
get
be have his
Lance?
best football ahead of him. So can you get
Could
him
we get
at 3 years
incentive
with
based
3 million?
deal?
Yeah, three
Like a
years. Give him a base of 2.5 this year, maybe a cap it in the 2.5, 3 range, like
yeah,
you mentioned, and see what
incentive based because
goes from there.
he if he's going into his prime, then an incentive base would be productive for him because he expects to have his best years. And like it couldn't work last year because he was the third safety. If he's coming back, he's either the starting safety or battling with a rookie to be the starting safety, and he should bet on himself, right?
Hmm.
Like that's what
Yeah.
it would be. So I would like to have him back, and I think I kind of expect him to be back in Buffalo. Uh, okay, the final guy, Cam Lewis. We can be quick on this, Lance. What do you? And we'll get to the draft simulator here, but what are your thoughts on Cam Lewis heading into this offseason?
Yeah, I got him in the wait till after the draft and
Yeah.
check in with him type of list. Let's see, if he gets something on the open market, then go for it. But I don't think he's a priority to target. And let's see where um, our draft lands and what else they may work out in free agency. For his role, it's going to be probably moving to safety and being that sort of fourth safety role type of thing where, you already have DeMar Hamlin who could potentially fill that. So I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense to put a whole bunch of stock into it because you can probably draft 2 safeties in this draft
Mhm.
and, come away with enough people to fill the roles out for that position.
Yeah, he's a wait and go see. Like if you want to bring him back post draft, early summer or late spring, and see what he can do. Yeah, I don't think he's a priority. You're not going to sign him early. You're not going to sign him right before the draft. I think he's a guy that you can wait on, and if he wants to come compete in camp, he is that type of guy. But like you said, like you have Siren Neal, you have DeMar Hamlin, you potentially could have Rat back. He doesn't really fit in the corner room. Do they like him at slot corner? I guess. I don't know if he really transitions there, but I don't expect him to be back. But it's he's one of those guys where like, okay, we wake up on I'll do Thursday morning. We wake up on a Thursday morning and Cam Lewis is back on a really cheap 1-year deal on June 3rd. Cool. We'll move on and we'll talk about it, right? But he's that guy.
Right.
Okay. If you guys are in the comment section, we appreciate it. We had a lot of defensive free agents to go through. Let us know what you guys are thoughts on any of these guys. And as always, Built in Buffalo, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter account. And if you do miss this episode, you can always rewind or listen tomorrow morning on the Apple Podcast, Spotify, Odyssey, or wherever you get your podcast. Just type in Built in Buffalo Podcast Network. And always make sure you guys listen to the Buffalo Blitz every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Okay, Lance, let's
Before we
end
go
this
into
one.
the draft, is there anyone out there that you've seen that's becoming a free agent that you want to target on the defensive side of the ball?
Like in the NFL.
Mhm.
You're putting me on
It's
the
okay to say
spot.
you haven't looked yet. I just wanted to.
I've looked at a couple guys.
I have one that's just completely silly. It's not going to work out, but it's just for the sake of it.
Like a DJ Reader would be cool. I don't think they can afford DJ Reader. Like a Jeremy Chin, would he be? I think he would be a really good fit in this team.
He would be. Yeah.
If they had the money. Who's your guy?
Josh Allen. Got to have two great Josh Allens on both sides of the ball.
I say we just screw
Why
the
not?
cap and just go get Josh Allen. That's what it would be. We would say screw the cap if we want to go get Josh Allen.
There you
Hey,
go.
what is Lance? What is Jeremy Chin like offering on the market? Like Jeremy Chin's spot track.
Yeah, let me
Like,
see if I can find him here.
I'm Googling him right now. Like, what is he looking at? Where do you see this anyway?
I don't see he doesn't have a market value up, so he's going to be fairly inexpensive, probably 2 or so million, maybe.
Like,
Cap
he's a guy.
hit last year was 3.3. Only played 11 games, so probably got hurt. So yeah, maybe able to get him cheap coming back from an injury.
Like DJ, okay, so DJ Reader we're never gonna get. He's at $14.9 million annual salary. He's looking at a 3-year, $44 million deal. Like that's not happening. So
Yeah.
we can he'd be a cool guy. I would totally bring in Jeremy Chin if they wanted to go away from Taylor Rapp and pair Jeremy Chin with Poyer in a draft pick. I think that'd be great. So probably Jeremy Chin. I think I'm on board for that.
Nice, good answer.
Go get me some former Panthers. Go get me Curtis Samuel. Go get me Jeremy Chin. Why not?
There you go. Love that.
And go get me CMC. As well, former Panther. Does Greg Olson want to Luke Kuechly, linebacker coach? Greg Olson want to come out of the booth and coach a little Bills? Okay, Lance. As we always do this, we always end with a mock draft. Last time we did a full one, and then we did a four round one, which we tweeted today on my personal. Lance retweeted it. Bill and Buffalo retweeted. So make sure you guys follow us on all those social media accounts as always. Lance, we're doing 4, right? Just 4 rounds?
Yes, sir. Ready to rip?
Let's get. I'm gonna make my screen a little bigger so I can actually see it, and let's get this ripping.
Maybe.
What happened? Did you break the system? 4 rounds, warp.
I had it sitting there, and it just must have sat too long. Doesn't want to do it for us. So
let's see. We'll try to go different than the one we did today.
There we go.
What did we go? 80 Mitchell. Ooh.
Yeah, a lot of different guys here. If we go to all tackles, probably not Byron Murphy at the D line.
I'm looking at 2 guys right now, Lance. Brian Thomas Jr. I'm looking at 3 guys. Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Franklin, and Byron Murphy. What are your thoughts on any of those 3 guys? We don't need tackle. We don't need corners.
6'1", 308. Yeah, I mean, I think that we have to address the most glaring need here, and that's wide receiver. So I would go Franklin.
Oh, you would go Franklin over Brian Thomas?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, you're driving the ship, man. I'll let you ride it.
You like Brian Thomas Jr. over Troy Franklin?
I would be fine either of them. Don't touch Keon Coleman, please. But either
he's
Troy
a non-draft for me.
I think they're very close. I like Brian Thomas Jr. a little bit better, but they're both in my 4th receiver range. You know, it's like no in order, but Harrison and Dunzu, neighbors, and then I think Franklin, AD Mitchell, and Thomas Jr. are kind of battling. Lance, in the last one we did, we took AD Mitchell, and then we went to Devondre Sweat, and then we went Malachi Corley, and then Cole Bishop. So just for people that remembered, and we'll tweet this again later in the week. Go to D tackles. I wasn't.
Will they just go back-to-back receivers though? I mean, they did it with edge. Why not?
Which is a little bit frustrating. I'm not saying Troy Franklin's not going to be a stud, but if you go like Byron Murphy and then you land Xavier Legette, go to D tackle. Is that the D tackle room? Okay, go back. We're double dipping on wide receiver, man.
I think you have to. You also have Jalen Polk out there. You got Bullard still there.
Oh, we have Xavier Worthy too. Go to safeties. DB. See if there's a safety we like. Javon. Nope. I think we can wait on the safeties. Okay. Go to wide receiver, Lance. Do you like Worthy or do you like Xavier? Legit. Worthy's good, but his little injury scares me a bit.
Yeah, it seems like he's too small.
He's a playmaker, though. He's so scary with the ball. He scares me with his ability to separate at times.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
let's go Worthy.
Go with him.
Let's make. Do we know how many of these we're gonna do? We have to mix them up a little, make them a little spicy. Get people on Twitter coming at me and you, right?
Third round. Wow, look at all that. It's like we
yeah.
could just draft 4 receivers. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Everyone on the roster. Go to D tackles, please. Because did we miss out on the D tackles? Dude, Darius Robinson. Can someone please update this? Because Darius Robinson's going. We can't take Darius Robinson because we won't get him here in real life. How big is that guy? Zion Fetu. Right there. You missed him. Washington guy. Right there. Zion Tupalel Fetui. How big is he? He can't play D tackle, can he? Nope. I was thinking he could play D tackle. I think Jordan Jefferson might be the pick. Or who's the best?
Jordan Jefferson's gonna be maybe a 4th or 5th rounder.
What about Justin Rogers? Right there. Auburn kid.
Big old boy.
I think him.
You gotta go for him?
All right. You gotta go with him. Justin Rogers, big old boy. What do we got here?
Max Melton. You got him. If you want him.
I don't want a corner, though.
4th round. What are you going to take here? What are you looking at? Got a linebacker. Cole Bishop again?
I don't know if we should.
Go Jalen.
Guys, we'll stay away from Cole Bishop. Oh, how about go running back? Let's see what the running back room looks like.
Good running backs left. Dylan Johnson.
Ooh. Dylan Johnson or Marshawn Lloyd would be great here. Even Braylon Allen as well. But how big is Dylan Johnson?
6 foot, 218.
He's so good, dude.
Played in a lot of big games in college too.
Let's go Dylan Johnson.
I like it.
We didn't get the safety. Everyone that's watching and listening, we went Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy, Justin Rogers, defensive tackle out of Auburn, and then Dylan Johnson, running back out of Washington. Troy Franklin and Xavier Worthy, both receivers, Oregon and Texas. If you're listening on the audio platform, we will tweet this like we always do later in the week. Lance, we have to mix it up. Anything you don't like about that draft? 4 rounds?
Yeah, obviously the D tackle value was there in the first. Should have taken it maybe, and seemed like the wide receivers were abundantly available in this rendition, but I don't think they will be in the real life. So
you know what we should have done? Went Byron Murphy. How the draft did itself. We should have went Byron Murphy, Xavier Worthy or Legit in round 2, and then another receiver in round 3 because there was good enough receivers to take in round 3 and then round 4. We didn't get the safety. That's the one thing that's a little bit frustrating. The safety board did not fall the way we did it, or
only because we didn't want to repeat our pick from last.
We also didn't want to repeat Cole Bishop, so but we went Dylan Johnson. So maybe next week we'll take a safety earlier on. Maybe next week we'll take a safety first round. See what the heck happens.
Yeah, just wasn't there. That draft.
Oh, Newman and Kitchens were
already gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, you really can't reach on a guy, and those guys might be even a little bit reaching depending on what you value safeties in the first round. Okay, Lance. I know this is pre-recorded. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed this episode. But as always, Lance, who are we sponsored by, and then where can everyone follow Built in Buffalo on all the many social media platforms that we got?
Yeah, make sure you go check out builtinbuffalonews.com for all of our articles that are written. Check out the Built-in Buffalo store, fulfilled by Buffalogo. So we're partnerships with Buffalogo here, local Buffalo business, Picasso's Pizza, PLBSC, West Her, and then the Buffalo Blitz itself is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Blitz when you sign up, get your first deposit matched up to $100. Daily fantasy drafts, pick 'em game that's really cool with rivals where you can pit player against player, scorchers that give you a chance to win 100 times your wager, and just straight pick 'em. So always specials out there for players to get a little advantage on one pick or another. So check that out, Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code Blitz to sign up at underdogfantasy.com or in your app store. Search Underdog Fantasy.
Yeah, I know, guys, this was a pre-recorded show, but hopefully if you're listening on the audio platform or Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you guys enjoyed this. We'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, make sure you follow Built in Buffalo on all the platforms. Make sure you follow both Lance and I on social media. And make sure you guys always tune in to the Buffalo Blitz every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Those are our social medias. He's at Lance Nelson BIB, and I'm at DiBiasi Peter, both on Twitter. If you guys are listening on audio, subscribe, like, comment. We'll be back next Tuesday. No idea what we're talking about, like I always say, but hopefully you guys but it will end with a mock draft simulator. But hopefully you guys enjoyed our defensive breakdown, some of the key free agents that could be staying or leaving with the Buffalo Bills. He was Lance, I was Peter, and this was the Buffalo Blitz right here on the Buffalo Network. We'll see you guys next week, and as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.